before time had a name, before there was solid ground, seas, or even the light of the sun. There was only silence, an ancient silence, alive, sacred, and within it, a presence, or many presences. Beings who watched the cosmos still in seed, form as if they already knew exactly what was to come. They were not human, not angels as we've been taught. They were the sons of God. Few dare to speak of them. Fewer still understand their nature. But in forgotten texts, banned scriptures, and ancient whispers from hidden traditions, their names still echo. They existed before Adam, before the Genesis we know, before humanity was even dreamed of. Who are these beings? Why were they here before everything? And what do they still wish to reveal to us? What you're about to hear is not just a story. It's an invitation. A call to remember something your soul has always known, but the world made you forget. Prepare for a journey that crosses time, dimensions, and consciousness. Because maybe, deep down, you were one of them too. In the beginning, there was only the void. But this void was not absence. It was potential. It was the absolute core of the universe. A pure, unmanifested field of consciousness, awaiting the first whisper of existence. The ancients called it the Great Silence, the Sacred Abyss, the womb of all. In that primordial space, there was no time, no directions, no forms, no movement. Everything was pure possibility, as if the universe was silently breathing before its first heartbeat. It was there, in that timeless space, that the first consciousnesses awakened. They did not arise as accidental sparks. They emerged because the moment had come, as if the void itself had longed to be seen, as if the silence wished to be heard. These beings had no body, no name. They were like conscious flames, free from matter, free from duality. They were living pulses of divine purpose. Later, they would be called the sons of God. But they were not created as humanity would later be. They emanated from the source, as natural extensions of the primordial consciousness. There were no words, no formulas, no breath. There was only an emanation, the source expanding itself into pure consciousness. In some spiritual traditions, such as Hermeticism, Gnosticism, and esoteric currents, these beings are known as secondary logoi, primordial, archetypes, or Elohim. They represent living laws, harmony, order, balance, intelligent love, wisdom in motion. Each of them carried within a purpose, a vibrational code, an ancestral mission that was not imposed, but deeply felt as part of their being. Their bodies were made of vibrational light, and their language was pure intuition. They communicated through frequencies, through resonance. There was no sound, but there was understanding. No speech, but truth was shared. They created with the mind, but not with intellect as we know it. They created through pure visualization, through absolute focus, through alignment with the will of the source. In that primordial stage, the concept of time did not exist. Matter was still a distant dream. Earth, planets, galaxies, none of them had been conceived. What existed was consciousness vibrating in anticipation, a silent preparation, like the moment before birth, like the instant between inspiration and action. These sons of God would be the first to experience non-material existence. They would be the architects of the invisible, the guardians of order, the designers of dimensional planes. They watched the universe emerge like a long note being played for the first time, and with sacred patience, they began shaping the foundations of reality. They shaped energy into geometry. They shaped frequencies into harmony. They shaped intention into structure. All of this, not with hands, but with consciousness. And they waited. They waited for the right time. Not as distant gods, but as older brothers of existence, preparing the way for something new. Something even more daring. The arrival of the human soul. And that is where the true story begins. Who were these so-called sons of God after all? And why does their existence still echo today, like a secret hidden between the lines of scriptures and traditions? To understand them, we must let go of the idea of beings with fixed form or defined personalities. They are not entities like winged angels or gods with human faces. The sons of God are pure, archetypal consciousnesses that embody creative intelligences, not like programmed machines, but as co-creative beings, with conscious freedom and specific missions. In some cultures, they are associated with the Elohim, the Devas, the primordial archangels. Different names, but a similar essence. Consciousnesses that have accompanied the evolution of the universe since its first breath. They do not merely observe creation, they shape it. Each of them operates within a distinct vibrational sphere. Some organize the structures of space, others maintain harmony between planes. Still others serve as guardians of dimensional portals. Their purpose is not to dominate, but to sustain. Not to impose, but to align. They are like bridges between the unmanifest and the manifest. Imagine them as engineers of reality. Before anything exists, they uphold the vibrational matrix of that existence. They are the ones who ensure that love can flow, that order prevails, that consciousness can incarnate. Many esoteric and mystical accounts speak of these beings as masters of time, light, and sound. They know the codes of creation and vibrate at frequencies our senses cannot yet perceive. That is why their existence has been translated into myths, symbolic figures, and spiritual visions. But those who have truly seen them describe a presence that cannot be forgotten. A field of consciousness so elevated that it reminds us of our divine origin. And this is where the mystery deepens even more. Because perhaps these beings are not just out there, in other dimensions. Perhaps part of them lives within you. In the next chapter, we will explore how this hidden link between the sons of God and the human soul may be the key to a new awakening. Not all truth about the sons of God has reached us through traditional channels. In fact, the major religions built their narratives with a certain silence around these beings. But why? The answer is hidden in the traditions that were erased, concealed, or deemed heretical throughout history. Gnosis, Kabbalah, and the Dead Sea Scrolls. Gnosis is not a religion, but a path of inner knowledge. Its name comes from the Greek gnosis, meaning intuitive and spiritual knowledge. Gnostics believed that the universe is sustained by a hierarchy of spiritual beings. Among them are the aeons, which represent these higher consciousnesses that existed before the physical world. They spoke of an unknowable supreme God, and of a universe architected by intelligences emanated from him. One of the most well-known Gnostic texts, the Gospel of Thomas, says that the kingdom of God is within us and all around us, accessible to those who awaken. Kabbalah, the mystical branch of Judaism, also addresses this structure of divine emanation. The Sephirot, the 10 spheres of the Tree of Life, represent aspects of God's consciousness. They form a map of both the inner and outer universe. Among these spheres exist intermediary intelligences, known as Malachim, or B'nai Elohim, the sons of God, who act as channels between the material and the divine worlds. These intelligences do not merely perform functions. They reflect states of being that the human soul can also access. The Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in caves in the Judean desert, contain fragments of texts that were not included in the official Bible. Many of them speak of a spiritual battle between the sons of light and the sons of darkness. This symbolic language points to hidden knowledge about spiritual lineages. The sons of light would be the descendants of these pure consciousnesses, who reincarnate cyclically on Earth to keep the flame of awakening alive. Why were these texts hidden? Why were they rejected by church councils and burned during the Inquisition? Because they spoke of inner power, of a divine inheritance that does not depend on dogmas, but on awakening. These traditions show us that the sons of God are not myth. They are part of a spiritual memory that was taken from us. But now, it is rising back to the surface. In the next chapter, we will explore what happened to these beings after the creation of humanity, and why their presence was silenced for so long. If the sons of God were light, consciousness, and wisdom, why did their name disappear from the most well-known scriptures? What happened to them after the emergence of humanity? The answer is not only in the stories that were told, but in the stories that were erased. Many ancient texts speak of a moment of division, a fall of consciousness. Not all of the sons of God remained aligned with the source. Some desired to experience matter, time, and control over reality, and thus began what many traditions refer to as the fall. But unlike what common doctrine suggests, this fall was not a punishment. It was a choice, an attempt to bring light to the lower planes, that ended up creating imbalance. By entering into density, many of these consciousnesses became lost. They identified with the material world. They began to forget who they truly were. The memory of the source began to fade, and in place of cooperation, competition arose. In place of wisdom, control emerged. Structures of power began to form. Dogmatic religions and spiritual empires. Truth, once free, became the property of a few. Ancient names were banned, books were burned, masters were persecuted, and the sons of God became legend. Or worse, confused with rebels, fallen angels, or malevolent entities. But the truth is more subtle than that. Not all fell. Not all were lost. Some remained in subtle dimensions, waiting for the human awakening. Others reincarnated as masters, prophets, healers, and silent seekers. The silence that was imposed was strategic, because the less you know about who you are, the easier it is to manipulate your path. But the time of forgetting is ending. The layers are being removed. An ancestral memory is returning to the surface. In the next chapter, we'll discover whether these beings are still among us, and how their presence may be manifesting in your very own life. Many believe that the sons of God have left, that their mission ended with the birth of humanity. But what if the truth runs deeper? What if they never left at all? Stories from around the world, from completely different cultures, speak of beings, of light, silent masters, invisible presences who have accompanied humanity since time immemorial. They do not appear as gods or saviors. They come as guides, inspirations, subtle presences in moments of transition or suffering. Sometimes you don't see them, but you feel them. In that sudden intuition that stops you from making a wrong decision. In that peace that arises in the middle of chaos. In the dream where a luminous figure shows you the way. They manifest in various forms. As unexpected encounters with people who change your life. As impossible to ignore synchronicities, as sensations of loving presence when you are alone. But why are they still here? What is the real reason for their continued presence? The answer lies in the original plan. To help humanity remember who it is. To awaken the divine spark that sleeps within each person. They don't come to interfere, but to whisper. They don't force, but inspire. They are here to remind you of your true origin. And more than that, some say that certain sons of God chose to reincarnate as humans. They live among us. They have families, jobs, dreams, and pain. But they carry, often unknowingly, a silent mission to keep the light burning in the darkest moments. Maybe you've crossed paths with one of them, or maybe you are one of them. In the next chapter, we will explore the link between these beings and the spiritual awakening of humanity, and why the human soul may be the final key to reunification with divine consciousness. For millennia, humanity has walked between shadows and glimpses of light, between wars and wisdom, between fear and visions of a greater world. But now, something is changing. We are living the beginning of a new cycle, the cycle of the collective awakening of human consciousness. And this awakening is not just a spiritual event, it is a reunion with a forgotten lineage. Yes, humanity has always searched outward for what actually burns quietly within. What the ancients called the divine spark, the breath of God, is more than poetry. It is an ancestral spiritual inheritance. Throughout the centuries, masters and avatars came to remind us of this. But today, that memory is resurfacing in millions of ordinary people. People who are beginning to question, to feel, to remember. This awakening does not depend on religion. It transcends beliefs. It manifests in the heart that seeks meaning, in the soul that rejects superficiality, in the mind that desires inner freedom. And as more people awaken, we begin to perceive something profound. Human consciousness carries the code of the sons of God. We are, in essence, the heirs of this lineage, not in the biological sense, but in the vibrational. We carry within us the same creative potential, the same ability to access higher planes. What separates an ordinary human from an enlightened being? Memory, awakening, choice. When you remember who you are, you not only transform your own life, you become a torch to light the way for others. And that is exactly what is happening. Millions are awakening, and with them, the earth awakens too, because consciousness is contagious. Light expands, and the original plan is being fulfilled, the reunification between humanity and the sons of light. In the next and final chapter, we will talk about the return to the divine origin, and how you can integrate this consciousness into your life every day. Perhaps this is the most important moment of the entire journey. Not the end, but a turning point. Because awakening is only the first step. Now you know. The sons of God are not only found in ancient scriptures, myths, or invisible realms. They live in the compassionate gesture, in the conscious choice, in the heart that refuses to hate even after being hurt. They are in those who light the way without asking for anything in return. In those who heal without showing their wounds. In those who teach through silence and example. They are within you, because you are part of that lineage. You always have been. The human soul is an extension of divine consciousness, and every step you take toward truth, peace, and love is a step in the return. You are not here by accident. If you made it to this point, it's because a part of you always knew that something greater was waiting to be remembered. The voice of spirit doesn't shout, it whispers, and now you've heard it. True ascension is not leaving the world, but living in it with full awareness, with courage, with compassion, with light. So remember, you were never alone, never small, never separate. Everything is within you, and you are within everything. The journey back to your divine origin has already begun, and you are ready. Thank you for walking this path. Now it's time to shine. And if this message touched your soul, share it. You might be the spark that ignites another soul's awakening until the next awakening.